All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to now get into the Eagles season overview, the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. So, going into the year, I did say that this team, how it was structured, and the moves that they made, I said this is going to be a team. I wouldn't be surprised if you see this team be the team similar to what we saw a couple years ago and before the collapse in 2023. And we got that and then some because they went on and they won the Super Bowl. Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts said it in that soundbite that you've probably seen that, when they were talking as the Super Bowl was coming to an end, that he was the missing piece. And he definitely was. Now, it was more than just Saquon. When you look at the additions that they made through the draft and through free agency, particularly when you look on the defensive side of the ball, because the biggest reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl, now Barkley helped propel them there, but the Eagles' defense was the biggest reason that they won. Their secondary with the young guys, Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, and then an under the radar signing in Zach Bond, who's a free agent, who the Eagles got to try to bring back. Now, if they don't, that is going to be a position that they could address in the draft. You got a couple of guys. You got Josh Sweat, who's a free agent. You got Zach Bond, who's a free agent. Milton Williams, I believe, is a free agent as well, one of their other interior linemen. So those are some areas that could need some addressing when we get to the draft, and unless they bring him back. Now, the Eagles do not have a ton of cap space. Now, like I've been saying, they could do some restructuring, but let's look at who they have for free agents, other free agents. So James Bradbury's a free agent. You figure he's probably gone. Josh Sweat. Actually, James Bradbury didn't even play at all for the team. But yeah, you got Josh Sweat. Brandon Graham is going to retire unless he comes back, which I don't think he is. But then you have Zach Bond, who's going to get a big contract. He was up for Defensive Player of the Year. If the Eagles don't get him, whoever signs him, that's a pretty good signing. Mekhi Becton is also a free agent. Vontae Maddox, Milton Williams. Orlin Burks, another linebacker. So linebacker definitely, yeah, and then you got another linebacker as well, Ben Van Sumerman. Yeah, no, linebacker could definitely be a position that they address in the draft. And then in terms of their current cap space, it's around $22 million. That's at least what I have on overthecap.com. So yeah, some restructuring. I know Darius Slay, could be a player that, ends up going elsewhere. He either wants to play in Philadelphia or finish up his career in Detroit, which is where he was previously. But yeah, listen, this was a great year for them. And coming off of a year last year, or 2 years ago now, where there was a lot of questions because you also lost two leaders on your team in Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey, and you didn't know how that was going to be replaced. Well, it was replaced okay because you had Jalen Carter, who had a huge sack in the divisional round against the Rams, but made his presence felt all year, was a force up the middle for them. And then Cam Jurgens did a great job, in his first year filling in for Kelsey or taking Kelsey's spot. And, you signed Barkley. Barkley had an unbelievable season, came within 100 yards of breaking Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record. And had he would have played against the Giants the final game, if the Eagles had something to play for, he would have played and probably would have broke it, but didn't happen. It's okay. He has a chance to break it next year. But that was the signing of the offseason, was Saquon Barkley. And, I don't think if they didn't have Barkley, I don't think they're making it all the way to the Super Bowl. Barkley really was a difference maker. He had, what was it, like 6 or 7 runs of 60-plus yards, whatever that stat is. I mean, he was unbelievable. But that's what happens when you put this generational talent behind the generational offensive line. That's the best offensive line he has ever run behind, and it really showed, which is why you saw all the big runs that he had. And he really didn't do anything in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs, that was the one good thing that the Chiefs did, was they held Saquon in check, but it didn't matter. And, Jalen Hurts, did he have a huge year? No. But in the playoffs, he shined. In the Super Bowl, he shined. In the championship game, he was also good as well. But he didn't turn the ball over. He turned the ball over once in the Super Bowl, and that was it. Jalen Hurts has a Super Bowl. And, it's still very hard to rank him because, he doesn't put up huge numbers during the regular season. But you know what? He's part of a team that wins games, and he contributes. They don't get to the Super Bowl without Jalen Hurts either. There's some people out there that'll say he's a system quarterback. He's not. You put some of these other quarterbacks in that situation, in that game, in that Super Bowl. I don't know if every single I don't know if all these quarterbacks that you could probably put in the Eagles situation would have done what Jalen Hurts did. And they could have made mistakes. Jalen Hurts did make a mistake, but you know what? That didn't faze him. Some quarterbacks, if that happened, they would have crumbled. And it could have been a different outcome. But Jalen Hurts, he didn't blink after that interception. And it wasn't a historic Super Bowl performance, but it was good enough. And he won Super Bowl MVP. And you can't take that away from him. In an era right now where it's all Patrick Mahomes, and then the other teams that have won were teams that had quarterbacks from the previous era. Jalen Hurts was the first one to break through and be the first quarterback in this new era to win a Super Bowl other than Patrick Mahomes. And there's got to be something to be said about that. You can't take that away from him. And you look at the Eagles, and we've talked about this. Can they become the next dynasty? It's very premature to say, but they definitely can. They definitely can. If they can keep this core together, there's no reason why they can't do it. Now, of course, there's going to be other teams that are going to have something to say about it. But, I mean, they're going to be a tough team to beat. Because at some point, Saquon Barkley is going to fall off. This offensive line is not always going to be stout. Lane Johnson at some point is going to hang it up. He's the last one, from the the Jason Kelsey days. Actually, I mean, I don't know why I said it like that, but, Lane Johnson's been around for a long time. And Jason Kelsey was around for a long time. Now they're gone. Well, Jason Kelsey's gone. Lane Johnson's really, one of the last remaining members from, I guess, the previous Super Bowl that they won. And, you got A.J. Brown and you got Devontae Smith, but are you going to be able to keep both of them? The corners, when their contracts are up and they're going to want huge paydays, they're going to be able to keep everybody? No. But they are a very well-run organization. They may lose guys, but they'll bring in more talent. So, we'll see what happens. Anthony in the chat, a couple of things he had to say. How the NFLPA announced after the Sam Bradford incident that they're going to have a rookie wage scale? Did they announce if they're going to do a quarterback wage scale for salary? I am not 100% sure about that. I would have to look that up. And then he also said, I don't think so. I think the Eagles are going to be one of these teams that is going to win a Super Bowl but not make it again. They'll make it to the NFC Championship game but not the Super Bowl. Listen, it's very hard to make it 2 times in a row. The Chiefs have done it. Well, they made it to the Super Bowl 3 times in a row. The Patriots, same thing. It's not normal for teams to do that. But you kind of look at the landscape of the NFC. There's very few teams that you could really make the argument are better than the Eagles. Right now, the Eagles are the best team because they just won it. But you look at their roster from top to bottom, you're going to put them at number 1. The Lions, I really would have loved to have seen a healthy Lions team take on the Eagles in the playoffs. How would that have played out? We'll find out if they play in week 1. But I would have loved to have seen that. I think the 49ers are going to bounce back. And then, I thought, look, the Rams came very close to beating them. But also the Packers. If the Packers showed some kind of a passing game against the Eagles and they didn't turn it over to start off the game that led to 7 points, I thought the Packers defense kept them in the game. I give the Packers some respect too. I think if the Vikings had to go there, I think it would have been similar to what we got. Based off what we saw the last couple of weeks from them, I think it would have been what we saw, the first time the Eagles got to the year the Eagles got to the Super Bowl and won it the first time. It would have been a blowout because that defensive line would have ate up Sam Darnold. And we'll see what they do next year at quarterback. And then the Commanders, the Commanders played them tough. The NFC Championship game got out of hand. But, we'll see if they have something to say. They're going to be even better. The Cowboys, I know Dak has good numbers against the Eagles, but, the Eagles are the superior team right now. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, listen, they've owned the Eagles the last couple of years. Jalen Hurts' playoff losses are to Patrick Mahomes and to Tampa. So we'll see what happens. Anthony also said, I think there's going to be a Super Bowl hangover. I think they lose the first game of the season. Well, we don't even know who they're playing yet. We have no idea who they're playing yet. Let's see who they're playing first, and then we could decide, all right, are they going to win or lose this game? But if they're playing the Lions, we'll see. We are so far away from that, but they're not. We got to see who they're playing against first before we decide who they're going to lose to, if they're going to lose the first game. So that is pretty much it for the show for today. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well. Appreciate the comments from you, Anthony, as always. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to this video. And until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.